When I was 10, my father didn't explode in anger. He staged punishments like rehearsed performances. Years later, when I exposed him, my own siblings tried to force me to publicly retract it to save his career. When I was 10, my father didn't snap. He prepared. That's the part that still makes my skin crawl. It wasn't chaos. It wasn't heat of the moment. It was controlled, measured, like he was proving something. He hated noise, not normal keep it down noise. I mean irrational, suffocating silence rules. No running water longer than necessary. No forks scraping plates. No laughing that went on too long. He used to stand in the hallway outside our rooms just listening. If he heard whispering past bedtime, he'd fling the door open and demand to know what was so funny. The morning it happened, I dropped a glass. It slipped out of my hands while I was rinsing it. It shattered. I froze. He came in smiling. That's what I remember most. Not rage, not shouting, smiling. He told me to come with him. Calm voice. My siblings were at the table. My mom was at the stove. Nobody said anything. He took me downstairs, closed the door, locked it. He poured uncooked rice onto the floor in a pile and told me to kneel. I asked how long. He said, until I believe you understand. Every time I shifted because it felt like knives in my knees, he'd press his fingers into the back of my neck and push me down harder. When I started crying, he leaned close and whispered that if I made enough noise for anyone upstairs to hear, he'd make sure I had something real to cry about. I tried to stay quiet. I really did. When my legs gave out and I tipped sideways, he grabbed my arm and slammed me back upright so hard my head hit the concrete wall. I remember the taste of blood. He told me to get up and look at him. I couldn't focus on his face because my vision was blurry. He told me to practice saying I tripped. My mother was upstairs. I could hear the TV. I stayed home from school for almost 2 weeks. Flu. That's what she told everyone. She helped me cover the bruise near my eye with makeup when I had to go outside. After that, punishments turned into performances. If I sighed too loud, he'd remove my bedroom door for privacy abuse. If I didn't finish food fast enough, I had to stand in the corner holding the plate above my head. If I asked why, he'd say I was challenging authority. He once made me rewrite a single sentence 300 times because he said my tone sounded sarcastic. He never did those things to my siblings. He lectured them. He grounded them. He never humiliated them. They saw a strict parent. I saw someone who liked watching me panic. By 14, I stopped reacting. That made him angrier. He'd get close to my face and say I thought I was smarter than him, that I was calculating, that I was manipulative. At 15, he smashed my laptop because I closed it while he was talking. He accused me of rolling my eyes in my spirit. That night, I downloaded a recording app onto my phone. I didn't record violence. I recorded the way he talked when no one else was around, the way he described breaking defiance, the way he said some children only learn through fear, the way he told me he could destroy my future before it even started. I let him talk. I sent the file to a school counselor after he told me that if I ever embarrassed him, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. I didn't expect what followed. It wasn't criminal charges. It was professional collapse. The audio spread through administrative channels. People he worked with heard it. Supervisors heard it. Parents heard it. He lost his position. His certifications were reviewed and revoked. People distanced themselves overnight. At home, it was chaos. He didn't scream. He went cold. My mother said I humiliated him publicly. She said I could have handled it privately. She said I made our family look unstable. She said I exaggerated. I was removed from the house within months. Officially for behavioral volatility. Unofficially because he refused to live under the same roof as me. I didn't fight it. I was tired. I finished school elsewhere. I didn't go to graduation with them. I didn't go to holidays. I didn't call on birthdays. Therapy wasn't some magical breakthrough. It just made the flashbacks less constant. 3 months ago, I got an Instagram follow request from my sister. I stared at it for a full day before accepting. She messaged, "We need to talk." Not hello. Not how have you been. We need to talk. I said okay. She asked if I understood what I did to our family. I said I understood exactly why I did it. She sent a paragraph about how he hasn't worked in his field since. How every time he applies somewhere, someone brings up the recording. How they grew up watching him unravel. How people whispered about them. How teachers treated them differently. Then, you could fix this. I asked how. She said I could make a public statement clarifying that the recording was taken out of context, that he was under stress, that I was a difficult teenager. My brother joined the conversation later that night. He didn't ease into it. He wrote, "You overreacted and ruined everything." I told him he had no idea what I lived through. He wrote back, "He never touched us." There it was. Then he added, "Maybe you pushed him to that point." I actually had to put my phone down because my hands were shaking. "Maybe you pushed him." I sent them a long long message. I described kneeling on rice. I described the wall. I described how he'd whisper threats so quietly they sounded almost affectionate. I told them about the time he held my wrist so tight I couldn't move my fingers for an hour. My sister replied, "You were always dramatic." My brother said, "You loved being the victim." That word, victim. I sent a voice message. I didn't plan what to say. I just talked. I asked them why they thought I would record my own father for fun. I asked them why they thought I would destroy my own stability for attention. My sister responded with a voice note of her own. Calm. Too calm. She said I always needed intensity, that I thrived on chaos, that I couldn't stand not being the center of things. I called her. She answered immediately like she'd been waiting. She started first. She said I was selfish, that I didn't think about anyone else, that while I was off healing, they were stuck cleaning up the social fallout. I yelled back. I asked her where she was when I was kneeling on a basement floor trying not to cry loud enough to trigger him. I asked her where her outrage was then. She said she was a child. I said so was I. She said I destroyed their stability. I said there was never stability, just fear you didn't recognize because it wasn't pointed at you. Then my brother grabbed the phone from her. I could hear it. He started shouting that I was bitter, that I couldn't handle discipline, that dad tried to make me strong and I turned around and stabbed him in the back. I told him strength doesn't require humiliation. He said I was twisting everything. I told him he was delusional. He told me I was unstable. I told him he was weak for defending someone who scared his own daughter into recording him. He said, "You think you're better than us." I said, "I think I survived something you're pretending didn't happen." There was so much yelling I couldn't even track who was saying what anymore. Hold on tight. Before I share the full story, tap that like, subscribe, and let's talk in the comments. Would you have done the same thing? At one point my sister screamed in the background that I should be ashamed of myself. I yelled back that shame belonged to someone else. The call ended when my brother said, "You don't deserve this family." I said, "I never had it." After that, things escalated in a way I didn't expect. My father updated his LinkedIn profile with a long post about resilience and false accusations. He didn't name me. He didn't have to. People who knew connected dots. He wrote about youthful exaggeration and private family struggles weaponized. My sister shared it publicly on Facebook with the caption, "Truth eventually surfaces." My phone started buzzing with messages from extended relatives I hadn't spoken to in years asking what was going on. An aunt sent me a WhatsApp message saying I should consider the bigger picture. I replied that the bigger picture included bruises. She didn't respond. Then my brother sent me a document, an actual drafted statement. He said if I signed it and posted it, it would help Dad rebuild credibility. It framed everything as a misunderstanding amplified by teenage rebellion. I called him immediately. I didn't scream at first. I asked him if he seriously expected me to lie. He said it wasn't lying. It was context. I said kneeling on rice wasn't context. He said I was exaggerating again. That's when I lost it. I told him he was so desperate to cling to a version of our father that didn't threaten his own comfort that he was willing to erase me. I told him he could keep his fantasy but I wouldn't participate in it. He shouted that I was vindictive, that I wanted him to suffer. I told him suffering wasn't something I had to manufacture. He said I was cruel. I said he was blind. We were both yelling so loudly that I pulled the phone away from my ear because it was physically hurting. Before hanging up, he said, "You'll regret cutting us off." I didn't answer. I blocked both of them again after they started sending repeated messages from different numbers asking if I'd reconsider. A friend told me maybe they're still processing. Maybe they're angry because it's easier than admitting he failed me. I don't know. What I know is I will not apologize for something I had to do to protect myself. But I also know that writing them off forever at 24 feels heavy. I keep hearing maybe you pushed him, and every time I do, I feel that basement floor under my knees all over again. Update 1. About a week after I blocked my sister and brother again, someone sent me a TikTok link. It was from my sister's account. No names, no tags, no direct references. Just her sitting in her car talking about what it's like when your older sibling fabricates trauma for attention and destroys your dad's career. She kept it vague enough to avoid defamation, but specific enough that anyone who knew us could connect it. She said things like, "Some people confuse strict parenting with abuse, and teenagers can weaponize therapy language." She said, "Imagine watching your dad lose everything because someone needed to feel special." It had thousands of views by the time I saw it. The comments were worse than the video. People calling the unnamed sibling evil, narcissistic, manipulative. One person wrote, "Cut her off forever." Then I started getting DMs on Instagram. Old classmates, a former neighbor, even someone I barely remembered from middle school. "Hey, is this about you? I saw something and just wanted to check." That's how I knew it was spreading. 2 days days later, my brother posted on Facebook a childhood photo of all four of us sitting on the living room floor opening gifts. We looked normal, happy, even. The caption said, "Before lies." That was it. No explanation. The comments rolled in. What happened? Family drama? Stay strong. A couple of distant relatives commented heart emojis and wrote things about loyalty. I didn't respond. I didn't comment. I didn't message anyone to defend myself. For 3 days I said nothing. Then my phone started lighting up at work. Unknown number after unknown number. I ignored the first 4 calls. The 5th one, I picked up because I was tired of wondering. It was him. I hadn't heard his voice in almost a decade. He didn't shout. He didn't sound angry. He sounded controlled, measured, the same way he used to sound right before things escalated. "You've made your point," he said. I didn't say anything at first. He continued, "Isn't it enough?" I asked how he got my number. He didn't answer. He just said my siblings were devastated, that I was dragging this out, that I was continuing cruelty long after I'd won. Cruelty. That word again. I felt my chest go tight. I told him he didn't get to reframe this as some competition I won. I told him he didn't get to call accountability cruelty. He sighed like I was exhausting. He said, "You were always dramatic." I told him if he ever called me again, I would upload the full audio file. Not the excerpt that made it into official reports. The entire thing. Every word. Every tone shift. There was a long pause. Then he said, very calmly, "You always did enjoy threats." That's when I hung up. An hour later, my sister texted me from a number I didn't recognize. It was a wall of text. She said I couldn't stand that they still loved him. She said I had to drag everyone into my bitterness. She said I'd always been jealous because he was harder on me and easier on them. I replied with one sentence, "You can love him. Just stop rewriting what he did." She responded almost immediately, "You weren't special enough for that." That sentence hit in a way I wasn't prepared for. I called her. She answered on the first ring like she'd been waiting for it. She started yelling before I even spoke. She said I was ruining every holiday by keeping this narrative alive. She said every time someone Googles his name, it's because of me. She said she grew up watching him spiral into depression and that I should feel ashamed. I yelled back. I asked her if she thought kneeling on rice until your skin split was a narrative. I asked her if she thought recording someone threatening to break you was theatrical. She told me to stop exaggerating. I told her she was delusional if she thought unemployment was worse than fear. She screamed that I was poison, that everything I touched turned into conflict. I told her she was weak, that defending him was easier than admitting she ignored what was in front of her. She said I always needed attention. I said she always needed comfort. At some point my brother grabbed the phone. I could hear shuffling. He started yelling that I was vindictive, that I couldn't handle discipline and turned a family issue into public humiliation. I asked him if discipline required humiliation in private rooms. He said I was twisting words. I said he was hiding behind ignorance. He called me unstable. I told him if I was unstable, it was because of the environment I survived, not because I imagined it. We were shouting over each other, neither of us listening. Just volume. Raw, ugly volume. He said, "You want him dead." I said, "I wanted him accountable." He said I destroyed their childhood. I said I didn't get one to destroy. Hold on tight. Before I share the full story, tap that like, subscribe, and let's talk in the comments. Would you have done the same thing? The call ended with him telling me I'd die alone if I kept pushing everyone away. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so over-the-top cruel that it felt surreal. The TikTok stayed up. It gained more views. Then my father made a long post on LinkedIn about resilience, about surviving false narratives, about rebuilding after betrayal from within one's own household. It was written like a professional essay. No names, but again, it didn't need them. My sister shared that post on Facebook and wrote, "Proud of the truth coming out." I didn't engage publicly. Then something happened that I didn't expect at all. I got a FaceTime call from my aunt. I haven't spoken to her in years. I assumed it was just her. It wasn't. When I answered, the camera was already on. My aunt was sitting at a dining table. My father was next to her. My brother was there. My sister was there too. It wasn't a casual call. It was staged. My aunt started talking first. Calm voice. She said the family was worried about the direction this was going. She said things were getting public and messy. She said everyone just wanted closure. Then my father leaned forward and said they had drafted something that could clear misunderstandings. My brother held up a printed document to the camera. It was a formal statement. It said that the recording had been taken during a period of emotional instability on my part. It said there was no ongoing abuse. It said my father's words had been taken out of context and that I regretted the consequences. They wanted me to sign it. On camera, my aunt said it would show maturity. immaturity. I felt like I couldn't breathe for a second. The audacity of ambushing me like that. The fact that they coordinated it. The way they all stared at me like I was the unstable one. I asked them if this was a joke. My father said, "It's an opportunity." I started yelling. I didn't plan to. It just came out. I told them I would not lie to protect his image. I told my aunt she had no idea what happened behind closed doors and that she didn't get to moderate this like it was a board meeting. My sister started crying but still talking over me, saying I was humiliating him again. My brother told me to calm down, that my reaction proved their point. I shouted that their setup proved mine. My father said, "You can either help fix this or keep playing the victim." I told him he didn't get to use that word. He said I'd always needed an audience. I told him if he wanted an audience, I could give him one by uploading everything. My aunt raised her voice for the first time and said threatening to expose more would only damage everyone further. I told her damage was done years ago. My brother said I was selfish. I said he was cowardly. My sister said I was heartless. I said she was willfully blind. It devolved into everyone speaking at once, no one listening. My aunt trying to regain control. My father sitting back again, arms crossed, watching me unravel like it was evidence. Before ending the call, I said very clearly that if they continued contacting me or attempting to coerce me into signing anything, I would consider that harassment. My father smirked slightly and said, "There it is, the threat." I hung up. After that, I didn't post anything publicly. I didn't respond to the TikTok. I didn't comment on the Facebook photo. I didn't engage with the LinkedIn essay, but I started documenting everything. Call logs, screenshots, dates, times, the FaceTime ambush, the drafted affidavit they tried to pressure me into signing. Not to blast them, not to retaliate, just in case. Update 2. After the FaceTime ambush, I stopped reacting emotionally. I stopped yelling back. I stopped defending myself in messages. I let them talk into silence. But I did something different. Instead of threatening to upload the recording publicly, I sent a single email, not to them, to the professional review board that originally handled his case. I attached everything, the full unedited audio file, not just the excerpts, the metadata showing the original creation date, the FaceTime screen recording where they tried to pressure me into signing a false statement, screenshots of the drafted affidavit, the TikTok, the Facebook post, the LinkedIn essay, the WhatsApp messages from new numbers. I didn't write a dramatic explanation. I wrote 3 sentences. I am being pressured to retract my previous report. I will not. I am providing this in case further context is required. That's it. Then I waited. 4 days later, my father called again, this time from a known number. I answered. He wasn't calm. He was furious. He demanded to know why the board had contacted him asking about recent developments. He demanded to know what I'd sent. I told him exactly what I sent. He started shouting, not the controlled voice, the real one, the one I remembered. He said I was obsessed, that I couldn't let him rebuild anything, that I was determined to sabotage every attempt at normalcy. I let him finish. Then I said, "You tried to coerce me into signing a false statement on camera." He said it wasn't coercion, it was reconciliation. I said reconciliation doesn't involve legal drafts and witnesses. He yelled that I was twisting everything again, that I was vindictive, that no one would believe me anymore. I told him belief wasn't my problem. He said I was destroying the family permanently. I said, "You keep using that word like there's something left to destroy." He went quiet for a second, then switched tactics. He said I was unstable, that this obsession was proof I needed help, that he'd always worried about my mental state. That was new. That was the angle. I told him if he ever questioned my sanity publicly again, I would file a formal harassment complaint including the video call attempt and the affidavit. He said, "You wouldn't." I said, "Watch me." He hung up first. Within hours, my sister posted another TikTok, this time more aggressive. She talked about false narratives escalating into harassment. She implied I was trying to ruin his attempts to get licensed elsewhere. She said some people can't handle accountability. But something shifted in the comments. Someone asked, if it was false, why was his license revoked? Another person asked why there was an affidavit involved. She deleted the video within 12 hours. My brother messaged me privately that night, not yelling, not dramatic. He said the board had contacted them too, asked questions about recent attempts to pressure me, asked for clarification about the drafted statement. He wrote, "You didn't have to escalate this." I replied, "I didn't escalate. I documented." He said I was tearing open wounds. I said, "You're the one who filmed videos." He didn't respond after that. 2 days later, my aunt called, alone this time. No staging, no father sitting beside her. She sounded exhausted. She said the board warned that any attempt to intimidate a reporting party could result in further permanent restrictions. She said things were serious now. I said they were serious when I was 15. She asked if I was trying to end him. I said I was trying to end the pressure. Hold on tight. Before I share the full story, tap that like, subscribe, and let's talk in the comments. Would you have done the same thing? The next morning, my father posted a brief LinkedIn update about stepping away indefinitely to focus on personal matters. Comments were limited. No resilience essay this time. No vague accusations. My brother removed the childhood photo. The TikToks are gone. No new numbers have called. No more affidavits. No more surprise video calls. No more drafts asking me to lie. Silence. Not the basement kind. Not the suffocating kind. Just absence. I don't know what they're telling people now. I don't know how they're framing it privately. I don't know if they blame me more or less. What I know is this: they tried to pressure me into rewriting history. They tried to corner me into retracting something that cost me everything at 15. They escalated it into public insinuations and coordinated ambushes. And when I stopped yelling and started documenting, the noise stopped. No reconciliation, no apologies, no dramatic final speech, just quiet. And this time, it wasn't forced on me. The end. NTA. Not even a little. Your dad was a smiling, whispering sadist who singled you out for basement rice kneeling torture sessions and psychological demolition while the rest of the family got kid glove discipline. That's not parenting. That's targeted abuse. Siblings are in hardcore denial. He never touched us / maybe you pushed him / you weren't special enough. Mom covered bruises. Aunt tried to stage a hostage video retraction on FaceTime. The whole crew ran a coordinated gaslight and smear campaign. Vague TikToks. LinkedIn resilience essays, childhood pics captioned before lies, drafted lies for you to sign. You didn't ruin his career. He ruined it the second he decided breaking his daughter was fun. You just stopped letting them rewrite history. You documented their harassment instead of screaming back they finally shut up. That's not winning. That's consequences. You survived a monster, got out, and refused to sign their fantasy script at 24. Steel spine. Keep the folder. Keep them blocked. Live your life. They don't get to rewrite your knees bleeding on concrete. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments and let us know which one was your favorite.